And the story goes, an aspiring costume designer moves into a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles, unaware that the complex's neighbors intend on indoctrinating her into their cult-like community. Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl, your avid viewer here. I recently watched a thriller film called One Bedroom, which currently has a 5.8 out of 10 rating on IMDb. One Bedroom premiered on April 24, 2020, and I watched it on Netflix. One Bedroom was directed by David Marmor. One Bedroom stars Nicole Brydon Bloom, who you may have seen as Chloe Cooper in Law & Order SVU, and Lila in the TV show Affair, as Sarah, a young lady who moves into a new apartment complex. It also stars Giles Matthew, who you may have seen as Gideon in Once Upon a Time, as Brian, a friendly and welcoming neighbor to Sarah. And lastly, it has Celeste Sully, who you may have seen as Tiffany in the TV show Second Generation Wayans, as Lisa, a new friend and co-worker of Sarah. Timestamps will be down below. A young girl arrives at an apartment complex, but she can't get in at first because the door is locked. A buzz unlocks the door and she enters the courtyard. The complex is having an open house where people can come inside to see an available apartment. At first hesitant, the young woman enters the apartment upon being greeted by Jerry, who you may have seen as Curtis Cone in this show, which name I'm not sure how to pronounce. She gives him her contact info and lies about not having pets because the apartment doesn't allow pets. Later that night, she gets a call from her dad, and he's not very pleased with her for moving it by herself, especially since she doesn't have a stable job. Sarah gets a call from the complex about the apartment and immediately moves in. As she's sneaking her cat in, she runs into Brian, her neighbor. The community is having a barbecue tonight, and Sarah meets everyone, including some creepy guy with one eye, who is played by Clayton Hoff, which you may have seen as McClintock in the TV show Truth Be Told. Brian claims he told Jerry how Sarah helped Edie, which helped her odds of getting the apartment. She helps Edie to her apartment and learns that Edie was a former actress. As Sarah is trying to get cozy in her sleeping bag, she hears some loud plumbing noises which keeps her up. The next night, she gets some earplugs to help with the noise. She tries to get Giles to come sleep with her but sees a shadow instead. The front doors open and she notices Edie is wandering outside. She escorts Edie back to her apartment and helps her with the medication. Sarah learns that the guy who she thought was creepy actually lost his wife to cancer. The next morning, Sarah gets a letter repeating the pet policy with an additional note that says some people are allergic. Brian invites her to his apartment for a get-together later on that night, and at the same time she's inviting her work friend Lisa back to her apartment and they hang out. Sarah is stressed out due to the lack of sleep and she forgets to register for her extension program, which is the literal only reason she is in this apartment. That night she is awoken by the smoke detector and there is another note on the oven about the pet policy. She finds Giles in the oven cooked. Someone ties her to a chair and she's begging Lester to not do this. When the lights come on, we learn that it is in fact not Lester but Brian. She breaks the chair and manages to leave her apartment while knocking Brian down. She runs into Esther and tries to get her to run away, but Esther clearly is working with Brian and he tases her. They bring her back to her apartment. Brian explains that they had to act quickly because she was going to move out due to her missing her registration, and that's also why he invited her to his get-together. Sarah wakes up in a one-bedroom apartment with the windows boarded up. She screams for help and Jerry and Brian come inside. They have closed all of her accounts and quit her job for her. They tell her to put her hands on the wall, and this is the same patch she noticed earlier when viewing the apartment. She refuses to put her hand on the wall, so naturally, of course, Brian is ready to torture her, but Jerry decides to bring Lester in. Lester has had his eye removed and ear damaged for disrespecting Jerry. Brian positions her in a stress position, and she's to stay in this position until the red light goes off. When the light goes off, there is a smoothie and urinal thingy. In the midst of this, Edie comes to visit, and it's clear everyone in that apartment complex had to go through this process. Jerry is fixing Sarah from her selfishness with sneaking her cat in and not considering people may be allergic, taking Zoloft pills, and drinking alcohol. Sarah can't handle the position and falls while the light is on. Jerry immediately comes inside and offers to end it now by shooting her. She gets back on the wall, and to assist Sarah so she never falls again, Brian nails her hand to the wall. She starts hallucinating that her dad is talking to her through the pipes. He tells her to run away, so she rips her hands through the nails, but of course, doors, she has nowhere to go, and passes out. She's about to put her hands back on the wall when Jerry comes in and hugs her. The ladies brush Sarah's hair after a shower, and she's taken to some room with Brian and Jerry. They give her a lie detector test, mostly about her sexual history. They show her the ropes of life in their apartment complex. She notices that Jerry carries the buzzer, which lets people in and out. In her room, she's given a book to which she fully reads that is the basis of their community. Sarah reveals that her father was cheating on her mother with a nurse. She threatened to tell on her dad, but he knew she didn't have the courage. Jerry asks her if she wants to join the community, and she says yes, but the lie detector test determined that was a lie. She proclaims that she really is trying, and he understands. Jerry's concubine tells Sarah it's time she start contributing to the community and brings Sarah to the school where Lester is the teacher. Their lessons are videos of the guy who wrote the book giving interviews. The community lives by the rules: selfishness, openness, security, and forgiveness. Jerry decides to give Sarah more responsibility, and she is on security watch with Brian. There are cameras in all of the apartments. She notices that there is a camera watching them and asks Brian who's watching. This is the first time we notice him being spooked, and he tells her it's none of their business. Since Edie is about to die, Brian gives her a speech as she is removed from her oxygen and passes away. Since she can't contribute to the community anymore and they can't help her, she is assisted in suicide. They put a bag over her head and fill it with some gas that kills Edie. Jerry asks her if she wants to be a part of the community again, and this time she says yes. He blindfolds her and she's branded behind her ear. Lester and Sarah are going to be the new couple. Lester is trying to get Sarah to come closer in his apartment. Before she has to, Jerry comes and shows her that her father is downstairs looking for her. He tells her that he wants to be a better father, but she screams at him that it's a little too late. They share a moment until Brian starts creeping towards him, about to kill him. Sarah tells him that she told her mom and she doesn't want to see her father anymore. He slaps her and never comes back. She goes home and Lester shows her that he saved her sewing machine and created a little space for her. And Jerry did say he was super compassionate. The apartment has a vacancy with Edie gone and people are viewing the apartment. Brian and Sarah are watching the cameras when Sarah sees Lisa apply for the apartment and move in. They chose Lisa for the new apartment because of her connection to Sarah. She's going through the same torture Sarah did. Sarah tells them that she's not as weak as her and she will resist. And she's proven that to be correct. She tries to talk to Lisa, but Lisa is not fazed. Lisa tries to run away, but Jerry knocks her out with the door. He's attempting to damage her ears similarly to how he did Lester, but Lisa keeps moving around. He yells at Sarah to hold her down and assist him, but Sarah is weak. His behavior is also reminding her of her father, which Lisa brought up that Sarah just found a replacement for her father earlier during their argument. The alarm goes off, so they try to leave. Lisa remarks that it's her life, so Sarah stabs Jerry in the neck. As they're about to leave, Jerry wakes up and shoots Lisa in the head, killing her. I mean, this was probably the best kill of the entire movie, I'm not gonna lie to you. She kills Jerry and is about to leave when she notices that Jerry had to go through the torture too. She takes his gun and is trying to leave, but Brian stops her. She tries to tell them that they're free, but they have no interest in leaving. Brian explains that while Jerry is dead, the leader doesn't really matter because everyone in the community believes in the 4 foundations. Sarah tries to plead with Lester, but it doesn't work. She partially threatens to kill Brian, but he teases her because he knows she can't do it. Those daddy issues. She kills him and makes a run for it. When she gets to the door, she takes a second to get out the buzzer and opens the door, but the group has gained on her and Lester takes the gun. He shoots the person holding Sarah and lets her go free. He holds the door so no one can follow her, and then he shoots himself. She makes a run for it and then stops to make sure that no one is following her. She stops by a complex and notices it's ran by the same people that run her complex. The alarm goes off and we notice the entire street is controlled by this group. Finally reaching her breaking point, Sarah starts to laugh before continuing to run away. The end. Okay, so here are some things that I noticed and or questioned. When Sarah opened the door to help Edie on her first night there, she left it wide open as she went inside of Edie's apartment and everything. And because she snuck her cat in, you would think she would be more careful about making sure she locks the door right after her so no one else can see that she has a cat inside of it. Secondly, although I hate when animals die in movies, I'm glad we do not have to actually watch or hear Giles suffer and die. Third, Even though Sarah is told that Lester isn't creepy, she still assumes the worst in him because he didn't smile in her face and he had the sunglasses on. Is there a lesson in that? Like, you shouldn't think people are creepy just because how they look. Of course, that's true, but still, he was put there to be creepy, hence the name Lester. And just how odd he was acting. Fourth, we know these people are crazy, but why does Brian nail her hand to the wall after her first time failing? It was the first time she had fallen, so I feel like this was a very extreme consequence. And how would that reasonably convince someone to join the community, like all on their own? If their goal was to get people to join the community on their own and be like truly want to be a part of it, you would think torturing them is not the way to go. Because eventually you have people like Lester who are just there because they have nothing else, but they don't actually really want to be there. Fifth, did I miss where Sarah's dad found out where she lived? Like, how did he know what apartment complex she lived at? It very much so seemed like she moved to this apartment complex and had zero or little intentions on telling her dad where she was at. Sixth, why did this dumbass girl stop running at first? Like, rule number 1, when you are in a horror film or slasher or whatever you want to call this, when you run away from a cult, you don't stop running until you are literally in a safe place. And that is subjection up to suggestion. Because this girl stops running in the middle of the street. Like, girl, you gotta just keep going. I understand she's at this like breaking point, but still, you just gotta keep going. 7, I think it's kind of weird that she let Lisa go through the whole process without trying to break free. I'm only assuming that the people who were checking out the apartment are always the same people and they are decoys. Because how is it that these people are always viewing this apartment and they only choose one person? It just feels like every time someone dies and they need a vacancy, you would think that the other residents in the apartment are all decoys and they're just luring single people there. Does that make sense? Like, I hope that makes sense. And 8, I do not for 1 second believe that Lisa would have even applied to this damn apartment complex. Nothing about Lisa screams that she would apply to this dingy ass apartment complex. She seems like a very bougie girl, and even whenever she was locked up, she had fight in her. This apartment doesn't scream independent person at all. It screams very much so damaged person. And although Lisa was a 39-year-old wannabe actress, it still doesn't fit that she would move into this apartment complex. And there's nothing you can do to convince me that that strong character would do that at all. I give this movie a 3 out of 4 stars. It definitely kept me entertained, but I feel like once you learn the characters, you can follow the tropes pretty easily, right? Lester was this creepy guy, so you knew he actually wasn't the villain. And then Brian was a guy she was very attracted to, so you knew that he kind of was the one they would use against her, if that makes sense. I did like the addition of Lisa. I feel like Lisa and Sarah honestly were the best characters of this, or in Lester, were the best characters in the entire movie because they each had a purpose and they made sense until Lisa moved into that apartment. That didn't make sense to me at all. But everything else totally made sense. It does make for a very creepy movie because it's very possible this could happen. Like, this is a real scenario in a typical little dingy apartment. There's nothing supernatural happening. And because they look for people who are lonely in a way, it's even easier for them to cut off the communication. Although I wouldn't expect this from like a very large, more open apartment complex similar to the ones you see on like college campuses and stuff, I would not be surprised if something like this could happen in like those run down apartments. I don't know how to describe them, but we all kind of know what they look like. They look like these apartments. I did appreciate that this cult only recognized one leader and everybody knew their roles, because similarly to Sarah, I believe Jerry was the leader, but considering they kept going, it truly does seem like a family of misfits almost. Like, they're all just trying to keep their family, and then they have the patriarch, which was the leader, and that's it. I think that's a very different way to look at a cult, because no one is trying to gain power. Everyone truly is just trying to make everything work together. I would not want to be a part of a cult. It's not a goal in my life. However, this would be one that I could see it being kind of easy to live in, because it's a self-sustaining cult. Okay, they all are, but they're not. Okay, they're torturing people. But as far as like the love and respect they have for each other, it really is kind of normal. It doesn't. They're not wearing like, you know, leather or yellow jumpsuits. They're not having orgies like some other cults do. They're just being a family, and they're all, like I said, like a band of misfits who were, I don't want to say rejected from their original family, but, you know, kind of rejected from their original family, and they had to find another one. I will say that I was surprised by how she escaped. That's actually assuming she managed to escape, and I'm going to say she escaped. Because I feel like this cult would have had more security on that street, almost in a way, that they communicated better, but maybe because Jerry was the main leader of this apartment and Brian wasn't, they didn't know how to respond quickly. I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see. I don't think there's going to be a part 2, a sequel, but I would be curious to explore how do they make sure people don't leave, because the whole street, as we saw in the last clip, the whole street is ran by this apartment complex. I'm almost left wondering why we needed the third act of Lisa moving into the apartment. Like I said earlier, I highly doubt a woman like her would have even applied to this apartment complex. She is a very strong woman. She's not looking for a family either. She's looking for money, like a job. And nothing about Sarah living in this apartment complex told her, this is where I'm going to make money and become an actress. I mean, for Christ's sake, she was there when she learned how stressed out Sarah was, and the fact that Sarah forgot to even register for her art program. So she knows firsthand that this isn't like some money laundering apartment or something like that. So I don't understand why she would have moved there. I'm feeling like it was just so Sarah could have her character arc where she could really finally realize that she could fight back. That's the only reason I'm assuming that Lisa would even move in there. I feel like it would have been better, or I don't know, I wonder how it would have been had her dad had come back for her. You know what I'm saying? Like, actually came back and like real shit was like, we're not leaving until you come with me, or something like that. I also appreciate with the cult thing, I know the standards are low here, but we have to have them. I also appreciate that no one got raped. I know, small things. One question I have for you. Could you live in the community if they didn't have to torture you first? Like, if there was some on the apartment application, it said, we are a family, we're self-sustaining, blah, 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 we follow these rules. Could you see yourself doing it if they didn't torture you and you could still have a pet? Because I can see myself doing it. It's very simple rules. Alright, so I would like for you guys to use the poll up above and tell me which video you would like to see next time. I have also watched the Amazon Prime movie Look Away, and I have also watched the Amazon Prime movie The House on Pine Street. I'm more excited for The House on Pine Street than Look Away, but I will do whatever you guys vote for. I will decide by Monday probably. Thanks for listening to me drawl on about this cool movie, and I hope that you press the like button to let me know I'm doing awesome. I post a review typically once a week. I'm getting back into the groove of things. It's been a long 2020, you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of the year, and Happy New Year's if this is when you're watching it. Bye!